Hello there, it's time to share a few words about the ModSelsor. Well, it's a combination of two devices actually. You have a selector and you have a sensor. What do I mean with a selector? Well, you have one input CV signal and you have 24 outputs from the selector. There is never more than one output at 1 volt at the same time. So you have a number of zeros and only one socket is at 1 volt. This one socket, which is on, so to speak, is selected by the level of the select input. The selector input is expected to be between 0 volt and 1 volt, and as you change the select input, the outputs will go to 1 and back to 0 as the select input changes its value. There is an automatic adjustment to the selector, so if you connect only a few cables, the select input will be split into as many sections as there are cables connected. So if you connect 4 cables, you will have 4 ranges on the select input, and each range will set one of the outputs high. Now let me show you how this works. I will connect 4 outputs. 1, 2, 3, and 4 cables are connected, and the select input I connect to a matchmaker output where there are no cables on the inputs, so I will get the fixed level. So I can turn this knob from -2 volts to +2 volts, and as I enter the range between 0 and 1 volt, you can see how the selector will turn on each of the outputs one by one until I pass 1 volt, and then nothing more happens. By the way, with a select input which is lower than 0 volts, that is a negative level, none of the outputs of the selector will be on, all will be off. Now the second half, the lower half of the ModSelsor, is a sensor. This is actually more or less the opposite of the selector. You connect 1 to up to 24 input cables and you have one output index. This index output is the opposite of the selector input. So whatever levels you put on your input cables, the index will point out which of the cables carries the highest CV level. And just like the selector input, the sensor output is automatically adjusted to how many cables you have connected on the inputs. So with 4 cables connected, depending on which is highest, you will have 0.25 output voltage, 0.5, 0.75, or 1 full volt. There is an additional output socket for the sensor, and this one carries the level of the highest input. So whichever of the inputs is highest, this voltage will be reflected on the output level. I can demonstrate the similarity between the sensor and the selsor in this way. If I connect 4 cables to the sensor inputs, I will get an output index which reflects which of the cables has the highest voltage. If I connect this output from the sensor to this select input, which also has 4 cables connected, you can see that as I increase or decrease levels on the inputs by turning these knobs from on the matchmaker, which gives a fixed value out, you can see that on the selector you will have an on indication for the same matching cable as you have the highest voltage on the sense input. This is more like an illustration, and I'm not sure if you can find any good use for this kind of connection. Well, I think I'll stop there regarding the ModSelsor. I kind of guess I don't make you much wiser anyway. That sort of rounds up the basic functionality of these 3 devices.